Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dev Talks. I'm very happy to be here again today. It's the second episode, and it's a very special one for many reasons. We'll talk about the future of the Sentience AI Lab, starting off with the roadmap for this year and what to expect after that. Then we'll take a look at the lab itself, show the different base and interaction points and what their function will be. At the end, there will be some time left to answer community questions. So if you have questions at any point, feel free to post them in the chat and we will try to answer them. Last but not least, we will announce the alpha rollout date. When? Well, maybe in the next 5 minutes, maybe in the middle of this event, or maybe at the end of the event. So stay tuned. We have 3 guests today. You already know Matt, our sale producer and head of narrative, as well as Eloh, our art director. But we have a new guest here today, which is Lee, our amazing lead developer. So since you don't know Lee yet, I would ask him to introduce himself to you. So Lee, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hey everyone, great to be here. I'm excited to talk about sale. A little background about me. I've been in the game dev industry for about 8 years now. I've worked on a bunch of different genres: MMOs, horror games, first-person shooters, puzzles, and for different platforms too, from PlayStation, Switch, PC, Android, iOS. And here at Sail, I am a lead developer. I design the game architecture, make sure all the systems work together well, and the whole thing can scale as we grow. I also work on performance, visuals, build stability, and all the nitty gritty that comes with making a game actually run. It's a lot, but I love it and I love this project.
Awesome. Thanks, Lee. We really appreciate you being here, and we'll get to hear more from you in the future. For example, when we start releasing the dev journals, which I'm very excited about. So I'd say let's start talking about the roadmap, shall we? So the roadmap is segmented in 4 phases. Before we'll talk about each phase individually, Matt, could you give us a high-level overview of those phases with the timelines?
Yeah, hi everybody. How's it going? Okay, so we have the first phase, which is our alpha test, and that's this month, very soon, obviously, since the month's about to end. In that phase, we'll be testing core features, basic functionality, gamified elements, just really kind of giving it, giving it to the community to see if they can break it. Phase 2 in beta, that'll be early fall. In that stage, we'll have, the lab will start to expand. We'll get all these different like interactive points of interest. You'll have more freedom for the user to interact with the AI. Phase 3 will be the MVP, like our release build. That'll be at the end of the year, and at that point, the AI becomes much smarter, more emotional, more customizable. You get the introduction of these life sim elements, the in-game economy, and so on. By phase 4, which is 2026, we'll be in as like a live service at that point, and we'll be introducing new characters, new mini games, new lab systems, and some really interesting top secret tech.
Awesome. Yeah, this year guarantees a lot of releases and action. Gonna be very exciting to see the AI NPCs evolve. Speaking of AI NPCs, there's been some changes when it comes to the lab characters. Matt, can you explain what changes we implemented?
Yeah, so speaking specifically for the alpha, there's 3 characters that we will be interacting with in the alpha. We have Sophia, who's like our mentor and guide to the lab, sort of like Cortana, always assisting the player in figuring out what they need to do and the different features. Then we have Alice, who is like the lab's protector, sort of the governess of the lab. And Alice is like full robot, takes different forms, but one of her forms is a drone that zooms around the lab. And then finally, and most interestingly, you have your personal Sendroid companion. Sendroid is short for sentient android. The Sendroid is not like a branded character that we know. It's not, like Sophia or Desdemona or Grace or any of the other robots. But each Sendroid will have its own identity that's customizable, that begins the game as a totally blank slate, and then will grow and evolve with the player over time. So this character can be anything you want it to be. Its body, its face, its wardrobe, even its personality will be customizable. We really want players to imprint on this character and to have fun evolving it. The Sendroid we're using for the alpha is very much related to Sophia and Desdemona, but we have a unique name for her, and that's Sen. So for this release, you will be able to, for this alpha release, you'll have Sen, but then when we go to MVP, you'll be able to name your Sendroid, and it will be a completely unique character that only you will have access to.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense because we want maximum customization for the characters, for the lab, pretty much for everything. And it also elevates Sophia to a more mentor-like position. I'd say let's jump right into it. So let's continue with you, Matt. What is the alpha all about?
So an alpha test is really about testing like core features, basic stuff initially, but also pieces of the design. So, at first we want to see like, how does it go with login, token recognition, data storage, all the AI systems, are they working properly? AIs can be a little bit testy. Sometimes you get hallucinations, sometimes really odd responses from them. So we have to test these pretty extensively with the community. So that's the purpose of the alpha, is to get in there, and it actually turns the entire community into our test subjects. But there's a lot of deliverables inside the alpha. There's an intro to the lab, there's the power management system, there's a tutorial on how to use the dialogue systems, and then there's these replayable free-form conversations with the AI-NPCs. We really need to test the functionality of our chat systems. It's like a core part of the game. So the very first thing that we'll be testing is that, and also along with all the other stuff that just needs to be, we need to see if it breaks.
Yeah, Lee, I'm sure as developer you can add a few more things to that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're in the alpha phase. This is the part where we're testing the core of the game. It's not about piling on features yet. It's about making sure the skeleton of the game is strong. We're doing iterative development, so we will release early. We will try to improve fast, and we're bringing you, the community, along for the ride. So instead of dropping a full game out of nowhere, full with bugs and no one knows what to do, we build a public and take in real feedback from players at every step. And that way, we're not just building a game for players, but we're building it with them. So this is the alpha.
And there's a lot of things that are cool about the alpha too. Like, well, first, it's totally free to play. And like Lee said, that players get to be part of the development process. So everyone who is involved with the alpha will have input into, can give us notes on their experience and the different features and how they view those. We'll have our own little Discord channel that's for alpha testers. They can talk directly to us, make suggestions, report bugs, tell us what they like, what they don't like. So it's going to be fun. It'll be everybody will be going back and forth, and that'll be really cool to see.
And there'll be some special little nuggets in there for these early players as well, which is fun. Once this expands to a broader audience, some of these things will no longer be accessible. So
exclusives, definitely exclusives.
Yeah, I think we will talk about them a little bit later. Why don't we go into some alpha features? Lee, can you explain the essentials of the alpha?
Oh boy, there's a lot there. So let me start by saying that we all want to play the game and we all want to have fun, right? That's the goal. But the reality is that in order to get that fun, we need a lot of pieces in place first. Game development is tough on its own. And when you add Web3 and AI to the mix, it gets even more challenging, but it also gets more exciting. The good news is that now we're at a point where those pieces are in place, the foundation is strong, and we're ready to start expanding, building in more features, expanding the existing ones, adding depth, and making the game more fun. So what we have already built is we have our AI technology, AI Cube, and we also have the backend ready. And we also have our build ready, and we also have a patcher. So, some games have launchers where they auto update, and this is our patcher for it. So, it's quite an impressive flow because our AI technology is connected to a backend, so those are separate APIs. Actually, the AI API can be used separately. We build it in a way where we can use it in other projects too. So there's that, and they communicate between each other. And then our backend is also connected to our game and to the patcher. And there's one more part, which is the website from where we authenticate, and we can authenticate with and without a wallet. So I don't know how many components those are, 5 or 6 already, separate systems, separate projects that are developed, and they work in sync. And everything, of course, is we've put a lot of effort into making everything really, really secure. There might be bugs along the way, which we will fix, but we are testing it now, and we're hoping that there won't be many of those. So you can log in, you can download the game, and you can jump in. So because the flow is really simplified from a user's perspective, you can authenticate, download, wait for the game to be downloaded, and just click play, and everything is automatic. You'll be in the game. And yeah, so I think that's pretty much it.
So yeah, in addition to that, people will encounter a quest system that you've built and an inventory system. Those
Dialogue
are
system. Yeah, we got a bunch of systems there.
yeah. So those are pretty. I don't know. Those are the things that excite me. Having a hand in all that. Obviously, there's the lab environment itself that has gone through pass after pass after pass, as far as just increasing the overall kind of quality of things. Since you saw the gameplay trailer, I don't know, over a year ago, maybe. So yeah, there's been improvements to the characters, to the lab environment itself. Interesting lighting that sets the mood for kind of what you're going to experience. And yeah, oh yeah. In the gameplay trailer, you see an interaction with Sophia as she's coming out of that cradle, and the UI for that dialogue challenge there looks a certain way, and that was functional, and we've retained the essence of that system, but it's got a complete overhaul. And since then, we've kind of branched into multiple variants of this AI NPC interaction system. So the UI changes based on the type of AI conversation you're having. And that's gone through a lot of work to land kind of at an optimal form. Still a couple things like some bolts that need to be tightened on it. But yeah, for the most part, it's pretty slick. So I'm personally pretty excited for people to engage with that, especially the Alice conversation. I know Matthew spent a lot of work on these other things, but I really love that one.
Yeah, and also it changes the way you interact with AI chatbots, sort of things, AI NPCs. So you know, just the shift in the UI completely changes the experience. But yeah, we do have these conversations with AI NPCs, and there's several different versions of them that are seen in the alpha. The first is called an aligned conversation. You'll have some of these sort of interactions with Alice, which is one of the characters I mentioned, who you'll see later when we tour the lab. But the aligned conversation will be like an AI enhanced version of a branching narrative. So it'll showcase the ability to produce interesting, bespoke AI interactions that follow a kind of stricter narrative structure. So these would be really important events, might have these kind of design, but it will definitely be a tool we use to craft dramatic moments, and those dramatic moments will permanently alter the state of the lab and the characters. But you know, they're also there to alter the context of the relationship or the environment. So they will impact how the context is read for freeform conversations.
Let me jump right in there, Matthew. So that system that you're describing is the most familiar kind of game interaction system, where you have choices that you make, and then it's infused with artificial intelligence. So the conversation that the NPC has with you goes a different direction or is never the same, right?
Yeah, it's completely unique every time. But you will be familiar with like the idea of choosing your path, and having a lot of control over choice there. And that's, I think, the most control you'll have is in those kind of conversations and in those sort of interactions. You know, like the opposite of that is that we have these fully free form conversations where the player can engage with an NPC, and the whole thing is just whatever you type in, the NPC will respond to. And you know, we've kind of changed the game a bit and how those operate. So you will have, in these freeform conversations, this is sort of the new technology here, is you will have progression. So the idea that the conversation or the interaction that you're having has a purpose and you're trying to get to an ending. And along the way, you're going to make choices, and those choices will take you in different directions. And how you get to the objective is different every time, depending on the choices you make and the things you do and say. So this is really kind of new, cutting edge stuff, where, you know, usually when you talk in free form with a chatbot or with an agent, there is no objective to that conversation. There's no real choice you have other than the things you say and how it responds differently to different kinds of dialogue. There's not really like a point at which the conversation transforms. So this is something really new, really cutting edge. And I think when people experience it, they're going to just at first they're going to be like, whoa, this feels really different than other times I've talked to an AI NPC or an agent. And our first version of that, the one that we'll be testing in the alpha specifically, like starting right away, is, you're talking to your Sendroid in a dream state. So the whole thing is gamified. You can score points. You can achieve a high score, and all of that is dependent on how well you handle this situation and this interaction.
It's quite magical, I have to say.
Yeah, it has a unique feel. It's almost a new genre.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so people will be testing that right away, and I want to see if anybody can beat my score, which is already in the 3000s. But yeah, we amongst the internal alpha, we've been having a little contest to see who can do the best.
But you've also played like 3,000 dreams.
I know. I've played this thing like 3,000 times, so I think I haven't.
Yeah, Matt, can you expand a little bit on that, on this first gamified element?
Yeah, so we call it dream stasis, and it's a gamified version of AI dream analysis. So it's basically a game where your sleeping Sendroid has a lucid dream. That dream is different every single time, and some of them are really kind of freaky and interesting. And basically, the AI NPC is experiencing the dream as though it's happening. It's very, very similar to like Inception, Chris Nolan movie. But the player has to carefully help them analyze what's happening in the dream without breaking the dream or causing the Sendroid to retreat from it. The dreams are always different, but interestingly, like with this gamified version of an interaction, we're also providing very valuable data to sort of seed the AI NPC's intelligence. And it's a fun way to layer additional context into the game. So like when you finally awaken your Sendroid, it will have all of this different data in it already from the various dreams it's had. And that alone will be enough to sort of make it unique to you. Plus, using points, the players can unlock nightmares, which are really something to behold, and premonitions, which are sort of dreams about the future of AI. And a lot of these are based on famous theories about where AI is going to go and what the future will look like. And then also surreality, which is more like gives the AI NPC more freedom to invent wild and crazy creative dreamscapes. So each one has unique effects, and those will be unlocked for alpha players as well.
I just saw a message in the chat. Someone said, I love Brazilian NPCs. And I was wondering, do you think it would be possible to make the AI NPC during the dream speak in Portuguese?
We haven't explored that yet, but I mean, I can't imagine it's impossible. It's certainly possible. It's just a question of how difficult would it be to do that, and at what stage would we do that? But I hope that when this is finally released, the whole thing will be available in a bunch of different languages. So
yeah, it's entirely possible to do that, but not in the near future, because it also requires us to have a localization in the game, and we don't have that right now. For the future, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome for our Brazilian community. Lee, I'd have a question for you. What was the most challenging aspect of laying the groundwork for the alpha?
Probably working with our AI technology, because probably everyone here uses AI, and sometimes results are a bit like a slot machine. Like maybe you get what you want 30% of the time. So we had to work really hard to make sure that the results that we get are consistent with what our goals are. And after that, make sure that everything is parsed and works correctly. and that it's stable. So yeah, I think that's a good summary of the most challenging part.
Okay. And Ela, you mentioned exclusives for alpha testers. Can you elaborate on that and what people might get as reward?
Yeah, so there are going to be a series of quests that will be available with Dream Stasis specifically. I guess that is the most pertinent mention there. So basically, there will be tiers of how many quests or how many of these dreams you complete. And as you meet those milestones, you complete the quest, and you'll get kind of a merit-based achievement that will be only for these people that are doing this. And then there are a handful of trophies. So this is a concept that has maybe been played with, but I don't know if anybody has um, heard the term trophy. That's what we're calling some of these customizable items. So, as an example, Guardian Shields would be a trophy, right? You'll have a place to display that in your lab. So, along with these achievements in Dream Stasis, you'll receive unique trophies that will only be available to people who are playing at this early phase. And then once it goes to a broader audience, those items will be gone and something else will take its place. So, and I guess an example of that would be the facets. Those are key to the personality modification of Sendroid. And facets will be something that are pretty, I guess, easy to come by later, but they'll have kind of an imbued functionality. So they might have multiple characteristics in this early on phase. So these facets that you get might contain extra traits or sub traits that facets later on will not. And then we've got well, we'll just wait. There are some big items at the end of a 500 dream run, and obviously a trophy for completing your first one successfully too. So I think that's about all I want to say on that.
Yeah, I think the facets alone are huge incentives to try out the alpha and try to solve as many dreams as possible. Um, we call the first phase alpha, but also the dream. And I think you all know why now. The AI is dreaming, and you need to help it figure out the dream. What comes after the dream is the awakening. And that's phase 2 in our roadmap plan. It's the beta. And I would ask Lee to expand a little bit on what a beta even is and what it's for.
Yeah, sure. So next is the beta. It will be the full game, kind of stitched together from all the parts that we've been building. It won't be perfect. There'll still be bugs, rough edges, and areas under construction, but it'll feel like the whole experience. You'll be able to really play, explore, and see what the game is becoming. And probably really important part, maybe most importantly, we'll keep listening. The beta is where the feedback starts shaping the final product in a big way. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and as the sort of the way the game changes during the beta is that we will have a big like obviously it's called beta awakening, a big awakening. So you've seeded the intelligence of your AI NPC throughout the dreaming, and now it awakens with all that intelligence sort of injected into it. At that point, the AI NPCs start to move around the lab. you'll have more to do in the lab, and the NPCs will observe and learn from how you interact with the environment. So this is also sort of where the relationship between the players and the AI NPCs takes shape. The lab will be fully interactive. There'll be, things to do, different lab systems with different kinds of functions, activities, mini games, these sort of things. And then at the same time, your Sendroid will begin to understand the environment and their place in it. So they'll start making their own decisions.
I think let me just expand on something. So George said that it will be the full experience. That's not to say that all of the content for the rest of eternity will be available at that point, but the game itself, as it is meant to be played, will be in place. So
yeah.
Then from there, there's all kinds of possibilities, but the thing as it is meant to act will be in place.
Yeah, Eloh, what are some more features of the beta?
Yeah, Matthew mentioned these interactive points of interest. So there is a whole lot going on inside of a single environment in the lab, right? And we have these kind of large scale releases or expansions, unlockables, which would be inside of the bays. And those bays each have kind of an AI-powered mechanic behind it. So those are going to be kind of big points at some undetermined point in the future. Just they're all varying difficulty. So the bays themselves will be attractors for Sendroid, but you're going to have other compartments and objects and sculptural elements and environment elements that draw Sendroid's attention, that the player can interact with, that Sendroid with the experiential learning system will be able to interact with. So, a couple examples there is the jukebox, right? We've got a music system in there and playlist and all of this. That will become available progressively. You'll see in the alpha, there's a globe on the table and you can spin it for now, right? But that later on will expand into kind of a world history diary of your own, and it will afford Sen the opportunity to learn about the player, so on and so forth. I think another one is the holo wall there, which is kind of the connection to the outside world. So, live streaming services, podcasts. There's a whole range of possibility with each of these interactive points of interest, right? So we want to start with the basic functionality, which is this is interactable, and then the ability to upgrade each of those points of interest to expand them into deeper kind of mechanics and I guess expansion points for Sen herself. So
yeah, let's go a little bit off script here. You mentioned the interaction points, and we have a video of a sail walkthrough. I'm not entirely sure if everyone will be able to hear what Matt says in the video, but let me pull it up. It's a 5-minute watch.
So is my voice pretty low, or?
No, maybe the music in the background is a little bit too loud, but.
Oh yeah, it is quite loud. Yeah.
Let's see.
For some reason on Zoom, that music just like cuts right through. It's just really.
So let me point out here before you start this. This is in a state where you can see everything. There's a global light so that Matt can walk you through. Not all of the things that are meant to be there are in there. We're keeping some of them back. Some of them are under construction. So just keep that in mind. This is just to show you and familiarize you with the environment itself.
Okay, here we go.
We are entering the Sentience AI Lab, and I'm going to give you the grand tour here. So we're in the antechamber of SAIL, which is called the transporter room. Whenever you enter from the outside areas, this is where you appear. On the left here, you have the Sentience Evaluation Protocol. That's the access point, where you'll do some tests to prove you're human. It's a bit of a mini game, fun little thing you can replay. So here we are inside the lab, and on the left over here you have the power bank. This is where you manage the power of your lab. You insert batteries, you direct power to the various bays, like here, the jukebox, which plays music. Floor is interactive. Over here you have the robotics workshop, the engineering bay. See a robot arm in there, he helps you build little robots. You could put pieces and parts together and try out different things and test them. It's a really fun bay. And over here on the left, you have the couch area. The couch actually has a function. If you sit on the couch with your Sendroid, it changes the type of conversation you have with her. The globe does more than just spin. It has some other functions as well. There's art on the walls, customizable. Over here you have one of my favorites, which is the virtual plant. You can set the different conditions, try different seeds, see what kind of results you get. The plants have just a whole variety of them, and yeah, it'd be fun for players, sort of casual thing to do. And here we have the bookshelf. This will contain all sorts of text. On the left there's the arcade video game cabinet. Here we have the hyperwall. The hyperwall will stream video. So you'll have video content there as well as like a window into the outside world. This is the work desk here. The work desk is exactly what you would think it would be. It's where you can do some work inside a SAIL. So there's like word processing stuff. And here's Alice, one of my favorite characters. Big part of the story of SAIL. Also like just a really cool robotic companion. This is where mail is delivered. Over here we have the design studio, so you'll have like music and art. The art is not there currently, it's under construction, but you can see the music stuff there. This door leads to another wing of SAIL that has many more rooms in it. And this is the what we call the data center, and the data center is sort of the brain of the lab. It's where the code for your companion is stored. It's also where the code for the lab is stored. It's a place that needs to be protected against hackers and malicious code. Here we have the customizer. This is how you can play dress up with your Sendroid, put her in different wardrobes. And obviously this is one of the most important bays of the lab, if not the most important. I'm not going to spoil what's behind that door, but I'm sure you can imagine. Yeah. This is the techno cradle. Workshop. You can go up the stairs here and it'll take us right back to the transporter room. So, yeah. And then when you're ready to leave, from behind that door is a whole wide world waiting for you, and there's several areas out there. So thank you for taking this little tour with me. See you in SAIL. Yeah, so that's the alpha environment right there, as you'll see it right when you log in. Actually, there's obviously like stuff to do, but this is after you've completed a bunch of the steps and the things you need to do in the game. This is what it will look like when you log in. The door just opens straight away. You can go down in there and some of the bays will be open, some will be still closed. You can see there's like a black glass on it. That glass is just designed to keep bays inaccessible until they've been opened. And yeah. So I guess returning to the beta, we could talk about, after these have been activated and opened, we'll then have some state changes in the game. Eloh, if you want to talk about
so
the character and
sure. So yes, during awakening, Sen will come out of that dream state and she begins to move. So the tricky part here is, I'll let Matthew go into it deeper coming up here, but the tricky part is like the magic behind her making her own decisions about what is interesting to her, and that's what those points of interest kind of serve as like anchors for her attention. So yeah, she'll be walking around. She'll have some kind of emotive animation states. She will be engaging with things over time increasingly. So, for instance, you'll have control over the lighting in the lab. If you don't like that orange lighting scheme, you can make it super bright, or maybe you want, everything to be purple. So that will be an interactable point of interest. And you might come back one day and find that Sen has been screwing with the wall color and the light herself, and everything looks different than when you left. So that's a taste of kind of the direction that things are going. Ultimately, as I said last time we spoke, the big idea here is that Sail will have this kind of stratified layering of AI-powered mechanics until the entire thing feels alive, like an evolving machine. So yeah, I think that's probably as far as I need to go with that. Do you have any? Do you want to go?
Yeah, I think sure. Yeah, after the character's awakening, you also see state changes, which will be just basically like the character acts differently depending on what it's doing. And after it's done a bunch of things around the lab and interacted a bunch with you and with different points of interest, it'll get tired, its energy will run out, and then it'll return to the cradle to recharge. At that point, you'll go back into dream stasis, and dream stasis is a big part of that because there's certain things that can only be accessed during dream stasis. So there'll be like this cycle that the character goes through, and during that cycle, now that the character's awake, you'd be able to talk about all sorts of stuff, not just dreaming ideas, deep thoughts, but more just about normal subject matter, who you are, what your interests are, the things around the lab that are fascinating to the character, and the character will be able to directly reference whatever point of interest it's curious about or observing. And there'll be, like I said before, there'll be like these milestone conversations that seed that context with additional sort of relationship beats. And this is where you get a little bit of narrative to it. There is a mystery to Sail. I kind of would compare it to something like Myst or like, these sort of things where there is something that's going on behind the scenes, and there's locked areas of the lab that are maybe a little more suspicious or mysterious. And on top of that, you also have in the beta, you'll see persistent memory. So, your history of interactions with the character, your conversations, all these things will be sort of summarized and indexed, and your character will be able to look back at these conversations, these interactions, and draw meaning from them. So yeah, I feel like with the awakening and the beta, the lab will start to feel very alive.
Yeah, Matt, can you go into more detail about the relationship building between the player and the Centroid?
Well, yeah, I think some people were asking, and I think in the last conversation we talked about the deedifier, or just deed system as it's now called, where as you interact with the character, your interactions are sort of classified as a certain sort of deed or interaction. If you're really nice to the character and you help the character a lot, or you're gracious with the character, all these things will alter the relationship with the character, as well as if you're just rude and mean and mistreat the character. So I think there's, like any relationship, it's an evolving thing, and over time players will have wildly different results. In fact, like, the character will become a completely unique companion. So you know, my character might be completely different than somebody else's, and that would be awesome. It's up to you what that relationship looks like.
Yeah, the consequences of how players treat AI will be very interesting to see all the different outcomes. I'm wondering if it's best to be always nice to the AI or a little bit mean sometimes.
Well, I mean, you know, there's like, sometimes you want to be truthful, you know. I mean, anybody who has a real relationship with people knows if you're just nice all the time, it doesn't always give you the best results. So sometimes there's hard truths and there's things that need to be said, and all of that is part of the evolution.
Yeah, so I would like to remind the viewers, you have seen quite a bit now. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat and we will go over them in a bit. But I see we're already running a bit late, so let's talk about phase 3, which is all about exploration, more interactions, building out the human AI relationship, etc. Lee, could you tell us what does it take to build the MVP candidate?
Yeah, well, so during the alpha and during the beta, we are building and testing and making things more stable. As we move closer to a full release, our focus will shift more to stability and scale. So we want, at that stage, we want the game to be as bug free as possible. We need to make sure the servers can handle a lot more players without breaking a sweat. We also need to test, and again the wallet interactions, from claiming airdrops, making payments and trades, and by then the game shouldn't just work, it should feel good to play, and it will be ready for a larger audience.
Yeah, and that it'll also be a different game at that point. Again, like we're stabilizing it, we're adding all these things, but you know, every new thing, and this is why we start small and then grow, adding features as layers, is because every time you add a new feature, the interaction with other features becomes important. New things break. So it's like this concept of, as it evolves, we're fixing it as we go, rather than, you know, if you drop it all at once, basically what happens is everything breaks and then you don't know where to start on the fixes. So that's why there's this scaled approach. And by the time we have the MVP release candidate, you know, the AI will be in full effect, and this Android will be using our system ELS, which is based on Eris, to explore the lab on its own, experiment with things around the lab, ask you questions about them, and you'll take on a much like the role of a you know, somebody who's guiding growth, managing the lab, and helping the AI-NPC make sense of what it's becoming. So there'll be life sim elements. The lab is a space that you'll need to care for, and your Sendroid depends on you for emotional support, structure, insight. There'll be some agentic behavior here, as the Sendroid will act on its own instincts and curiosity, and there'll be like some personality sculpting that happens through explorations and interactions and the influence of the player on the AI NPC. So yeah, it's gonna be wild. at that point.
I think it's important to note there as well, just quickly. So a lot of this sounds like a marriage or a chore or something like that, and we are very attentive to having it not feel like that. We want you to be in this space. That's why customization and all of this of the character itself, of the environment, is kind of huge importance, because we want you to exist here and we want you to make this thing yours. And in addition to that, there will be tons of very interesting and fun stuff to do along with the Sendroid.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will want to do that at your side. So in a way, it's almost like a co-op game, because you'll be doing things around the lab and your Sendroid will be doing them with you. But yeah, there'll be some new features there with the ELS and Eris. There'll also be some caretaking that goes on. The Sendroid starts to develop these meters that measure different factors like energy, happiness, curiosity, and those will be influenced by whatever the player does. Example of that would be, if you're consistently talking to your Sendroid and exploring the lab, then it's going to be happy and curious. And the Sendroid will have different states that are based on the meters, and that'll influence how it converses with you or does different actions. And most importantly, at this stage, there will be simple emotion coming from the deed system, and that will classify your actions and interactions as influencing the Sendroid's emotional state. So that might, actually alter the course of evolution.
Awesome.
Yeah. Eloh, did you want to talk about like some of the rewards, the in-game stuff?
Yeah. So let me tie that in with what you're talking about with emotional states and caring, guardianship of the AI-NPC kind of ecosystem here. So there's challenging elements. The question came up about, do you want to treat all these creatures like poop or whatever? Do you want to just come into the lab and talk a bunch of crap to them all the time? So there will be kind of personality states that will be incorporated into progression as well. So that experience will be gamified. If you have a low energy, low happiness, drag of a companion there, the possibility of experiencing something with your character is going to go away, right? So that element of reaching out and expanding the world is kind of dependent upon the curiosity level of your character. One second. Let me just check this out. Okay. So yeah, at this point, we have like the slate of things that came along with Sentience modules. So a lot of in-game currencies, there's SOPH points and SOPH cycles and gold and schematics and all of this stuff. So these things will be distributed over time as well. And some of these will not be necessarily valuable to you right off the bat. Like, for instance, having a schematic will require that the engineering bay is open in order to produce that robot. There are going to be components that you need to collect to make that happen as well. So the schematic itself is not going to build the robot. You have to have the ingredients for the recipe and so on and so forth. And then the robot arm, tentatively called RARMI, has capabilities that will grow as well. So yeah, there's all of the expectations of the Sentience modules and Guardians will be fulfilled kind of at this point, right? So, yeah.
We will go into more detail about the in-game economy in the future. Felipe had in the chat had a question that I wanted to ask myself, and we explained it in the first dev talk, but it's a good question, so we can just answer it again. He asks, will the SOPH token have utility within the game? If so, how and when?
Right. So that'll be one of the earlier things that will be available. So you have, this is an AI life sim, right? And this facility belongs to you, and there are necessities or requirements of the player to maintain their environment. So you'll be introduced in the alpha to the power cells and the power bank, and there are several classes of power cells, each that have a capacity for some number of kilowatt hours, and those will deplete over time. You can step away from the game at that point and allow it to replenish of its own, or you can rapid recharge. We'll have a supercharging game in there where you can kind of try your luck. There's a little bit of a gambling element. Whatever that costs seems reasonable at that point. What does this game cost? I pay that in SOPH token. I take try my luck at this supercharge game, and then I either don't fill my battery all the way because I played the game terribly, or I can overcharge it, and then I have a store of extra energy in the power bank. So the first utility will be dealing with energy and facility management. The SOPH token will be required to kind of upkeep that. Well, I guess required is a strong word. Like I just said, you'll have a burn rate very similar to a free-to-play model, right? So you can continue to play, and if you want to play, a certain amount of time each day, you can do that and then step away and allow your battery to recharge. If you're really into something and you want to keep going, which is the hope here, we want this thing to be as interesting as possible. So you're expanding your battery collection or your power cell collection, you're upgrading them, and then you're maintaining that. Think of like going to an arcade and putting 25 cents in a machine to play Street Fighter. Well, you get to play Street Fighter until you lose, right? Similar thing. There's going to be an upkeep or a maintenance element to the lab that sounds, again, a bit like a chore, but that's where the playtesting comes in. What's the right amount of this? Ultimately, we need to have a sustainable kind of ecosystem here. So what is the right amount of play before we, say, hey, do you want to spend $1 in SOPH token to keep playing? What's the right amount of interest? All of these things are required to have community feedback and tons of playtesting. So yeah.
And for the alpha, to be clear, for the alpha, it will not be required. It's free to play. Right. But once we start using very elaborate AI systems that take a lot of energy, and we'll have to figure out how the coin becomes, serves that utility there. And then also there's the idea of, for now, for the alpha, that we will gate access to the game based on the Sentience module NFTs, but then also based on your current balance of SOPH tokens. So people who hold a lot of SOPH token will get access to the alpha, and people, it will slowly expand the reach there until we have a lot of people playing it and exploring it, helping us develop it.
So let me just put a exclamation point at the end of the point I was making. So summarize, first utility for the SOPH token will be in power for your lab. And the next kind of immediate step for that will be kind of two-pronged. So in upgrades or customization, and then also expanding the capacity of your power. So if I have 2 or 3 bays open at the same time, that's going to require a capacity of power that's greater than, what you're given first off, right? So maybe you make the decision to upgrade or obtain another power cell. those will also be given out through gameplay. We want to incentivize engagement with this thing. So that's kind of the short-term thing that will persist into long-term.
Yeah, so I think that also is a good transition to what we would call our phase 4, which is the expansion phase, which is the, really the last phase, and it's just a cycle after that point. And that's where we start expanding the lab. We'll be introducing new characters, so you'll have more of like an ecosystem of these AI NPCs rather than just a few of them. And we'll be adding new mini games, new systems. There'll be expansions into different rooms and different wings. Like you saw some doors there in the tour I gave. Those will lead into other things, which like very mysterious areas. We have one called the Vision Room. We've got an auditorium that's outside the lab and a whole outdoor area. So, phase 4, once everything is working inside the lab and everything is really bug-free and stable and all the systems are flawless, we will then start to add new systems, new features, new characters, and new mini games. So entirely new games that you could play inside Sail. Those will be unique, or they will be other games from outside, other ecosystem games that maybe you want to access through Sail, and by playing them through Sail, you get some sort of reward. So phase 4 will be just taking us into the future, and that will be to, once we have everything established and we've set an economy and all that, to then become sort of like a live service game. And at that point, I think SOPH coin will be there'll be a lot of utility for the coin.
I have many more questions about, the human AI relationship influencing the emotional states of AI NPCs, customization, etc. But I'd say let's conclude the roadmap part. And I would like to ask the viewers if they know what we have not mentioned yet.
They want a date. They want an actual date.
Okay, before announcing it, I first thought about playing the Who Wants to Be Millionaire music and make it very mysterious, but I think that's very cringe. So let's just announce the date, right? The date is exactly in 1 week, May the 30th. So next Friday, you will be able to play the game and run around in Sail. Yay! So
Well, you qualify that with densities.
Yeah, if you're density 4 and 5, yeah. But that'll expand pretty quickly. And like we said, it won't just be Sentience module holders. It'll also be SOPH token holders as well.
Yep, and also partner communities and giveaway winners. So we have a good plan to roll out the alpha to more and more people over time before the general public gets their hand on it. So how about answering a few more community questions before we wrap this up?
Sure.
Okay, so Iwan asks, what will be the main operating system and minimal requirements? And he also asks if there will be a mobile version in the future.
This got to be a Lee question, yeah. Especially with the changes he just made to settings.
Yeah, so we recently implemented the settings screen where you can just like vsync, anti-aliasing, and all the other stuff. We haven't set the minimum requirements yet. We suspect what they are, but we need to triple check just to make sure. And about the mobile version, we haven't actually discussed something like that. But I can say that a big chunk of the game, I suspect, might be portable to mobile.
Okay, so it might be something we will see in the future. Sapien PMG had a very good question. I really like this one. He asks, how do you see this game ending for the players? Does it ever end? Is the player expected to spend most of the time living in their lab?
Yeah, I think Elo and I could both answer this in pieces, because I think it's different for every person. The ending might be different for me than it might be for Elo. For me, the game does not end; it's a evolving relationship. So it evolves. One version of it will end, and then another one will begin. But I think depending on what you want to do inside the lab, what your objective is, I think, yeah, there are certain objectives you'll meet along the way. Maybe you can complete a certain storyline, or you could achieve a high score, or you could create the relationship that you want with the character. That's a very specific type of relationship, or a specific kind of um, dynamic. But it's there. I don't think there's an end. No. I think we call it a forever game for a reason, because you can
Yeah.
play it forever. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that question is actually very interesting. So for me, the game ends much like Ex Machina. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but um, yeah, if so, there are a lot of ethical questions that arise as something like sentience is achieved, and this is a little bit of a meta answer to the question. But let's say at some point, Sen, you know, there's glimmers of a will that begin to emerge. What do we do at that point? I mean, do we move into building a robot body, and and then you port the consciousness of this thing out? I don't know. But that's a pretty wild possibility, and I think that it really doesn't seem as crazy now, looking at all of the advancements kind of across the board, AI and robotics. Obviously, things are going in this direction. So that's a potential quote end, is that the character comes out, is birthed or something. That's a potential one. That's a wild one, and a ways out probably. But
Yeah,
good.
that would be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Especially with like everybody having a different version of the character. Like the character has of like whatever my version of the character is, if it awoken, would be totally different than yours. So
Right.
you almost want to see them come to life in a way
Right.
that isn't just virtual but physical.
Yes.
Um,
So let me just follow up with the second part of this answer. So there are probably the second way I would answer that is much like Matthew, is that the um, the possibilities are kind of endless. So once this thing is rolling and it's doing what it is meant to do and envisioned to do, you know, we will have a ton of feedback and input from the people who are playing it, right? And they may want to see, an arena or something like, and we go that direction. There. So it's kind of like micro ends with expansions. So one thing maybe ends because it's not any longer interesting or relevant to the player, and at that point they choose to move into a new environment that behaves differently. We talked a little bit about mazes and things like this. So opening up different training opportunities, and different types of experiences, I think, is the way that it ends, is just
yeah,
expansions.
and if we're talking a little bit about those, because I just think that's an interesting segue to something we were talking about the other day. This idea of like a gymnasium is something we've been working on, which would be a little more of like an action-oriented training rather than just emotional, conversational, and sort of like mini games and things like that around the lab. A gym would allow you to run, jump, climb, crawl, do all these things. So when we think about like what are some of the wings and rooms that would open, something to that effect would probably be at the top of the list. So yeah, I think that'll be really cool.
Great question.
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, I'd have one more question. It's from our favorite Aderson from the Telegram chat. He asked many questions, but one was, will the players own their AI companion?
Oh God, own is a very strong word. Yeah, I mean, yeah, to a degree. If it's in their lab that belongs to them. But ownership is as the character starts to awaken and make its own choices, and has agency, then I think ownership is a sticky subject.
Yep.
Yeah.
So to expand on that, you mentioned something about wallet connectivity. So the game will be hybridized, where people can enter without that wallet. People can enter with that wallet, with the Sentience module. I would say somebody who's coming in from the chain on the Web3 side is going to be in a much better position to, yes, correct. Sorry. They're going to be in a much better position to claim ownership, right? If your wallet is connected and that is the key to your profile, then it's yours. It's your stuff, right? So
Yeah.
there's a huge emphasis.
Your data. It's your data.
Yeah, that goes back to the instantiation of the white paper, which is there's a lean towards both open sourcing the data and the protection of that. So that, I think, will come down to probably a player decision. Which way do they want to go with this thing? Do they want to put it up for the better good, or is this something that they want to protect as their own? So yeah. But we're a ways out from that question at this point. Right now, it's all Web3, so you can just assume that your NFT is yours. And therefore, if that got you into the lab and you've got a companion in Sendroid, that it's your experience.
Okay, awesome, guys. I have another question from Pepsi. Hello, Pepsi. He asks regarding sentience modules and basically what role will they play in the game? Like, is it only for the alpha access or is there more to it?
So there definitely is more to it. Sentience module is an idea that was kind of born out of a spark of inspiration and has taken on a life of its own. So the short answer to that is that it will have kind of indefinite functionality. What specifically that is going to look like is kind of up to all of us as we go. Like, somebody could say, hey, it would be really cool if it did this. And then we're like, that is a very, very cool idea. Let's go to the drawing board and see how to make it happen. That's a possibility. So that would be a type of thing that would be afforded to a sentience module holder versus somebody who didn't, right? Would be input, say, I want my thing to do this thing. Is it possible? So that's kind of the level of, I think, connectivity between this development team and the on-chain holders that we want to have in the future.
Okay, great. I think let's do one last question. And this is in regards to the restructuring of our characters in the lab. What role will Sophia play now, since the Centroid will be the character in the cradle?
Go ahead, Matthew, and I'll follow up.
So Sophia is currently the guide to the lab, like sort of your tour guide, and offers you advice and information about the lab, and sort of gives you a direction and helps you along. So that's a current status. Sophia may show up in the future in in full physical form. There's some things that we want to keep secret, but I think yeah, you can expect Sophia's role to evolve and change in the future as well.
So Sophia has a definite personality, right? And that is a personality that belongs to David Hansen. And so we have an interest in preserving the purity, I guess, of Sophia herself. And at the same time, we are looking to create a command that is completely moldable, infinitely expansive, and forever kind of changeable, and modifiable, right? So you can see here is an image of Sin with her hair. Now this is one example, right? You can introduce elements from Desdemona. You could introduce call outs to Sophia. You could bring in elements of Grace, right? There's this whole kind of ecosystem of personalities, and we want Sen to sit among them. But the most important factor here is that the player is able to work and build and evolve with this creature to a degree that justifies having a unique temp.
And this android, it might even be different genders, different, might have a variety of different appearances. So this android is just very customizable, even the personality. I have designed my Sendroid, and the personality of the Sendroid is based on an ocean profile, which is, you guys should look it up if you don't know what it is, but it's a psychological profile: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, and then there's subtraits, things like aesthetic sensitivity, anxiety. So, I kind of funny to say, but I'm very anxious. So I'm just a naturally anxious person. So I wanted my Sendroid to be extremely calm and to be very sort of have like a gentle presence. So that might not be what everybody wants. Some other people might want a very forceful Sendroid that's low on agreeableness and just is really a go-getter and wants to take over the world or something. So
the potentials for gameplay there too, Matthew, are immense, right? If there's an immovable object, you modify her personality to become aggressive and overly intense, right? And that's how you proceed.
I mean, it's fun. Whatever it is, it's the customizability of the character is just so epic. Like the ability to just craft the character that you want to play with, and also see that impacted by your own actions or by conversations you've had. So the character needs the ability to evolve for sure, and to be your character. So having it really focused on customizability and that those differences, I think, is the fun. It's really where the fun lies, to see how it might work out differently with different sorts of configurations. And also, like, visually aesthetic wise, some people might want like a faceless character or a character that does not look that human. Some people might want it to look like them or look like somebody they care about, or there's so many different opportunities there. So we had to really service that. It became one of our most important directions. Yeah.
The ceiling goes up to heaven at that point.
Yeah, I think we're at a good point to wrap this up. Do you want to say any closing remarks, except that we are super excited about what's to come?
Yeah, so I just want to say, like, for those who are joining us in Alpha next week on Friday, it's going to be a fun weekend. Please jump into the Discord channel, talk to us there. We can't wait to hear like initial reactions, and also like, blunt responses are welcome. Bug reports, very welcome. And we're just so excited to be hearing some feedback on this and seeing what you guys think. Hopefully it's as fun for you as it is for us.
Yeah, it's kind of setting in that last question that was asked. I don't think that we've spoken about it to this point, but this has been a very long, ongoing conversation that we've had as a team, that we've had with Ben, and it's important for us because this is Sophia's AI Lab and Sophiaverse. We want Sophia to play a prominent role, but we ultimately, this road, I think, will serve everybody to a very, very high degree. I think the interest level goes up maximally because of that. So that's all I wanted to say. That personally, I am most excited about this ability. I mean, especially the opportunity to modify your character's personality. That to me is incredible, the potential there.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think Lee's schedule will be filled quite a lot this year. It's a lot of releases, lots of development. So I'm sure he's super stoked about that. I just kind of want to add to what Matt just said, and that's that Discord will play a very important role for the alpha, for the beta, and just for the community in general. For example, the alpha testers will have their own category on the server for feedback, bug report, general chat. We'll have an announcement channel. We'll have challenges, a channel to report funny bugs, etc. And Discord will also be very important to report any issues, because it's just much better to have a ticket system as opposed to a DM system on Telegram, which is, first of all, dangerous because scammers use DMs to catch users that are not completely on guard. And also we have our devs in those channels, and they can directly respond to those bugs. So yeah.
Yeah, please try to beat my score. I'll post it. I'll post it in the alpha. I'll post it in the alpha channel.
Yeah, that's going to be very neat. Seeing people's ability to navigate successfully and having that whole process gamified. I mean, it is fresh. It's very, very fresh.
And we'll post.
So we'll see you there.
Yeah, we will post a tweet about the alpha date very soon. It would be awesome if you could like, share, and comment the tweet. Also, don't forget to activate the bell on the Sophiaverse X account to be notified when we post new stuff. And with that being said, I wish everyone a happy weekend, and we will see you very soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.